And
we're going to be good.
That's right. And that brings us right into habits, right?
Absolutely. Which is what our focus is today, habits. And that's another big one. We seem to choose some really big ones.
We do. We get together. I have like pages and pages of notes.
I know, it's crazy, right? Because we usually meet every Monday afternoon. And Linda always comes in with about 6 pages. Linda does, if you want to just explain out what you do, Linda, with your writing. I mean, we both do, but I think you just kind of take it to a whole other level. She comes in and we're doing the meeting and I'm like, okay. I didn't write all those notes.
Well, what I do is I activate my energy centers, and I listen to what each energy center, the knowledge of each energy center has about the topic that we're talking about. And if you've ever jumped onto one of my coaching calls, I'm coaching how to do this all the time. This is what we're doing. So when I say my coaching call on courage, well, this is what we're doing. It's we're looking into your energy and pulling that information forward.
Right. And you do the writing part of it. And what I do is I go through everything speaking it. So it's weird how different people do different things, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And it's just to put it all fresh in our mind before we start. So
this is it.
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So habits, we'll start out with, I guess, the different types of habits and you were going to say first, Linda, what we can expect in this, did we talk about that?
We did.
What we can expect.
Oh, what we can expect in this episode, right?
Yes.
What are habits, right? How are they formed, and how do we get them to move into the subconscious mind and make them more, automatic? How long does it take to get us to form the habits and bring in change? We will give some suggestions of good habits and some suggestions of good spiritual habits.
Absolutely. Perfect. I'm just going to put this over here. So we start with maybe the different types of habits that there are.
Sure. The types of habits.
I don't know who's going to go, you or me. Go ahead, Linda. I'm sorry. I'm just a little flustered. I'm trying to get back into the momentum of the habits and what we had talked about and everything. So it might take me about 5-10 minutes before I get right into it, if that's okay.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
But the different types, I mean, we talk about the physical.
Yes. So we have physical, mental, emotional habits. And those are what makes up the world around us all the time.
So when we talk about the physical, we talk about habits that we're actually doing. So the motor skills of the physical, right? So those are the things like, you get up in the morning, the first thing you do is make yourself a cup of tea. Those are kind of physical, right?
That's right.
And then we get into the emotional and the emotional mental habits. Those are exactly that, emotional. I'm just trying to think of an emotional habit that somebody might have.
Yeah. So every physical habit that we do actually has to have a mental and emotional attachment to it. Otherwise, we don't carry it out. It won't have a deeper meaning. Therefore, it can lose its value very quickly. And you'll notice too that a lot of the emotional and mental habits a lot of the physical habits that we want to change, they actually have mental and emotional attachments to them. And so they're actually filling out different needs that we have, whether they're good habits or bad. These are the things that are carrying us out in our world, right?
Right.
And our habits are creating the world around us all the time. So a lot of what we are attracting in the physical world is a result of the habits that we're having mentally, physically, emotionally.
Right. And so there's kind of like a habit loop that takes place when our habits are created, right? So if we talk about habits and what types there are and what are habits actually, like habits can be, habit is anything that's reoccurred over and over again in your lifetime, that now it comes in to be all the time in that one specific thing. And there are different things that cause the habit. So we talk about the habit loop, right? Yeah, so we've got the cue, which would be the trigger that would cause the habit to start. So take for an example, if you have, and we talked about this on Monday, if you go across, what can the cue be? What can the trigger be, right? Sometimes it can be trauma. So say you go across the road and you get hit by a car. Well, that's going to trigger the habit of looking both ways before you go across the road. It's caused by a trauma.
That's
right. So then getting into the habit loop is there's the cue, and then there's the response, and then there's the reward, right? So and some people put in a craving in there as well, and I guess that would depend on what kind of habit it is. But the cue in this case would be once you hit the road, you remember that you did that, right? So the reward is looking back and forth, or the response would be looking back and forth, and the reward is not getting hit by a car.
Yeah.
Making it that simple, right?
And getting to the other side of the road successfully.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's pretty much how the habit loop occurs, which is the formulation of the habit. But it does go very deep in the subconscious mind, so that the habit is actually something that we do compulsively. Like we don't even realize we're doing it. And so what happens is our mind kind of makes that space. It helps us to create habits so that it makes space that it can do other things while we're doing our habit, right? So take driving a car, for example, or riding your bike. You can do that. Once you learn, you can do that over and over again and look at the scenery at the same time, as an example, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. And so today, we want to help you to understand how to incorporate new habits too, right? Mm-hmm. So, sometimes we have habits that are not self-serving, and we need to be able to replace those with habits that are self-serving, right? So we want to be able to go in and change those cues, those subconscious cues that say, okay, this is happening, I do this. It's the same thing for smokers, right? There's something happening. So a lot of people, they like to have a cigarette after they eat. So they eat, and that's a cue. Then when they're done eating, they go smoke. That's, and so replacing those things with new ways of thinking, and new ways of deciding, okay, when I'm done eating, instead of going to have a cigarette, I'm going to drink a glass of water, or I'm going to replace it with having, something that, puts that hand without feeling, or even just going to sit outside, if that's what that is, just taking a break, that mental break that you need.
And that's really important to say too, Linda, because we don't break habits without having them replaced, because your mind won't forget the habit unless it's replaced with something else. So like you say, quitting smoking, instead of going to have that cigarette, you need to do something else to replace it.
Yeah. And another thing, especially for smoking, I'm just going to use that as an example because I feel like that's a big habit a lot of people really want to change. I was a smoker too. I was a smoker till I was 25, from about 14 to 25, a steady smoker. And at 25, I read Anatomy of the Spirit, and I decided, okay, I'm done giving my energy to this thing. And I had a really hard time. I struggled with it. But it wasn't until I started to say, I am a non-smoker. Even though I would go and I'd have still that cigarette, I'd say, you know what, right now I'm smoking, but soon I'm going to choose different, and I'm going to love myself for my habit right now. Mm-hmm. And I am a non-smoker in my heart. And soon it became I became that vibration of saying I am a non-smoker, and I was soon a non-smoker, and then it was something of the past very soon. But I appreciated myself for that moment when I was smoking, and I also said, this is something that you need right now. It's okay. I'm going to love myself still. I'm not going to say, oh, you're stupid, why can't you beat this? And that wasn't helping. And it often doesn't. It often, when you're like that, you keep pushing yourself towards the bad habits.
Right. And something to remember here in what you say, it's so fun being with you, Linda, because you say things and you trigger me to remember or think about something else. But what's important about, I mean, what you said was very important, but another thing that's important about what you said is to remember that our subconscious mind takes direct directions, like it takes direct commands, right?
Yeah.
So by saying I am a non-smoker, your subconscious is taking that command. If you say, I'm trying to quit, your subconscious is taking that command that you're trying to quit, but you're not successful because you're just trying, right? So I am a non-smoker. And that's a big thing as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes for anything. If you're trying to achieve anything, I am statements and speaking in the terms of what you want to be living every day, that I am a successful entrepreneur. I am, whatever it is you're trying to move in.
Even if you're not quite there yet.
Even if you're not there, it doesn't matter if you're not there.
No,
the brain doesn't trigger the fact that it's not there.
That's right. It just takes the direct command.
That's right.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then we also have like trauma and emotional trauma can create different types of habits, like you mentioned about getting hit by a car. But I mean, trauma can be something very small too.
Absolutely.
No, it doesn't have to be something major like that. So we can develop small habits out of tiny traumas that have happened to us. For example, if somebody put us down in a certain way, then, there can be certain things when we see life kind of coming at us at that, it looks like, oh, we're going to be living that situation again. Automatically that triggers that habit, that thought pattern of, oh, I'm this or I'm that. And those are then we go to physical habits that also feed those things. So maybe we won't do the workout we wanted to do, or maybe we'll go to the drugs and the alcohol or the things that we're trying to beat, because those emotional triggers are bringing us back into that space.
Right. And so it all comes back to our belief, right? It all comes back into what we believe ourselves to be, or what we were taught by our parents, our grandparents. Habits can be handed down. They can be caused by trauma. They could and it all comes back to the same thing.
Yep. And
right?
From the age of when you're in the womb until the age of 7 years old, you're actually training like your parents and the habits that they get you on. That a lot of times becomes the loop of habits that you take on as you move on in your life. And so to decide to dig in there and change those things, we're going to go through some different habits, initiating habits that you can go into later on in the episode, but it's just to be aware that these things are happening.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So then we have, what are habits? So there's bad habits and good habits. We know that, right?
Yeah.
Did you want to say something?
No, go ahead. I'm starting to get back into the groove there.
And we talked about acquired and learned habits. So getting habits to move into the subconscious mind. So when we're trying to adopt new habits, like we were speaking earlier, sometimes it can take from, they say before it was 21 days to gain a habit. Now it's like, 65
average of 66 is what they're saying now. And that's a study that came from the UK. Now, the study, so what they say is, in the study, they say that it's between 18 and 256 days, I believe. And so they've taken the average, and the average is about 66 days. But the study it consisted of 96 people, and it was only done over a period of 12 weeks, which is only 84 days. So, and they said that they used informed, I don't remember what words they used, but anyway, that they kind of projected that it would take up to 256 days. So the bottom line is, we don't really know how long it takes to form a habit. We can go by what they say in the studies. Other people said 21 days to start a habit, and 7 days to break a habit, or 3 days to break a habit, whatever it was. But it really all depends on what the habit is you're trying to form.
That's right.
Right? And how strong it is. So if you want to
mental and emotional cues behind the reason.
Exactly.
Right?
But if you're, sorry, I didn't hear you. I was cutting you off. Go ahead. Say that again, Linda.
Sorry. That's why your internal why, your mental and emotional attachments to the why, the reason for the habit is so important.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And then trying to change that habit as well. So it's the strength of the habit that determines how long it's going to take for you to form that habit or to form a new habit to replace a bad habit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And the point is to get it to the subconscious mind so you're not thinking about it anymore. It's just something that's so automatic to you.
Natural. Yeah, exactly. So it has to become a routine, and the routine then has to become, then the routine will become the habit, right? And there's a misconception there too, because sometimes some people say that, you have to do it over and over and over and over and over again. And that if you miss a day, oh, you're screwed it up. Now you got to start all over again. No, we can make mistakes. It's okay. We can screw up once in a while. It doesn't mean that it's going to take us all the way back to the beginning, right?
Exactly.
So keep that in mind. Don't be too hard on yourself when you're trying to change your habit or develop, change a bad habit to a better habit, or establish a new habit. Don't be too hard on yourself.
And that's what I was saying before. You fall off, it's okay. You got to love yourself for those things.
Absolutely.
You pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you keep going.
Absolutely.
And they're only bumps in the road, and it doesn't matter if you get off the habit for a month, a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
When you decide that you're trying to get back on again, it's okay. Like you can say, when I'm ready to do this, I'm going to do this. And it does take some determination, but it's okay. Just love yourself for it, right?
Yeah.
We're just programmed to be so hard on ourselves all the time.
So true. It's so true. Yeah. But keep in mind that if you're going to start a new habit, that you want to start out small. You don't want to put, and I mean, it's like New Year's resolutions, right? Okay, this year I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to work out for 2 hours and I'm going to lose 30 pounds and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then by the second day, you're like, whew, that's a lot, right? So try to be a little slow. Just take, one step at a time and build on your habits and build on your goals.
That's right. And it's like I was showing you, I have a book that I start at the beginning of January every year. And
yes,
I write the day that I want to reach the goal, and then I work backwards and I have tiny little goals. So tiny little habits that I put in place. And then I have these milestones. Okay, this date is this goal. So those tiny little milestones get me to that goal. And then I have more tiny little milestones to get me to that goal. And then they're tiny little goals to get to the big goal.
Right. And in order to achieve your goals, there are habits that you have to do to get there, right? So it all goes hand in hand.
Yep, it sure does. It really does.
Yeah.
And if you chunk, because I find sometimes when you think, for me, when I have it just in my head, okay, I'm achieving this goal. It's like, you're in the dark trying to get to that place,
Yeah.
And writing it down is a huge help for one, but having those tiny little goals, those tiny little milestones as you go, it almost like brings light in the dark. And even though you're going from this small goal to that small goal, you're in the dark, but you have the light is coming soon.
Exactly. Yeah. It's your how-to. It's like, it's like you're in point A and you want to be the point B, but if you don't know how you're going to get there, how are you going to get there? Right. So that's those little habits that you form along the way, that you build on, those little goals that you build on in order to get to point B where you want to be.
Exactly. And so, if you're trying to take on, and I'm just going to use this as an example. So you want to lose, say you want to lose in 2021, you want to lose 30 pounds. So you say by January or December 31st, 2021, I want to be 30 pounds lighter than I am today. So then you can go take that back. So every month you can say, okay, I want to lose, I don't know, how's that, 3 pounds a month or 2.5 pounds a month.
Sure.
So at the, that's not a hard thing to see. And then you can say, okay, so in order for me to get to that at the end of January, I want to see 2 pounds and 2.5 pounds lighter than I am at the beginning of January. So every week you're going to say, okay, I need to work out this many times. I need to eat this way. So these little things at the end of your first week, you evaluate, did you do that? Did you not do that?
Mm-hmm. And that's getting into the goals of it. But to get back to the habits, we need to form certain habits in order to be able to lose those pounds a week.
This is what I'm saying.
Right?
So, your first week, you're saying, okay, I'm working out 2 times for 20 minutes through the whole week, and I'm going to have an eating habit like this. So at the end of the week, you can evaluate, did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't do it, it's okay. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. But they're not really habits yet, though, at that point, right? Because they're not subconsciously. So what happens is, as you go, as you start doing these little things, the habits form as you go. Yeah,
exactly. By the time you get to your 3rd month, now you're into a whole new lifestyle, and you barely even, it was just because every day you're looking at your goal. And then by the end of the week, you're like, did I get there? Maybe, next week is a new week. I'm going to do better.
Yep, exactly. And then by the time you get to your goal, you've established those habits of how you got there. And so you're able to stay there, or else add on it from then.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And that's your goal long-term, building the habit to the goal. But the reason why the goal is so good is because it gives you that reward.
Exactly.
You want the reward. And that's one part about habit building that I find, we have these big goals, but
strongest.
We need those rewards. We need tiny rewards to get the big ones.
Absolutely.
And that keeps us going. When we get that tiny, you get to the end of the first month, you're like, woohoo, 2.5 pounds. Yeehaw.
Exactly. Yeah. And that goes right back to the habit loop, right? To your cue, your response, and then your reward. So if you get to your reward at every habit, then that habit is going, with repetition, that habit is going to go into the subconscious mind, and there it is. Yep. And then you're not getting rid of it unless you replace it with something else.
Exactly. And that's it. Once it gets into the subconscious mind. So by the 3rd to the 4th month of it should be getting into the subconscious mind, where now it's just a lifestyle. Now it's like, yes, you got these habits, you're doing it, it's easy. You got your family on board now. Everything is, groovy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so easy, when we talk about it. It's so easy to understand. It's so easy to, but it's not easy to do sometimes. And again, it depends on how strong the habits are that you want. And I mean, I know we're talking about little habits. We're talking about, looking both ways before we cross the road, or losing weight or whatever. There's so many different habits that you can build on, right?
Absolutely.
So it depends on, so if you start out small, like Linda was saying about the losing weight, in anything, if you start out, even if you want to start working out, I just want to start working out so that I feel better, I have more energy. I have nothing about losing weight or anything like that. So are you going to start by saying, okay, I'm going to work out 3 hours a day? No. Yeah, that's not going to work.
You're going to do it one day and you're going to be like, that's not happening again, because you're not going to get out of bed the next day.
No, that's right. You're going to be too sore. You're going to this is crazy, right? So you start out with maybe 10 minutes a day, and then you build up. The next week, you'll put it up to 15 minutes a day until you get up to an hour, whatever it is you want, whatever your goal is, right? And then it becomes the habit. So the smaller the habit, the shorter the term. The bigger the habit, or the stronger the habit, the longer it's going to take you to incorporate it into your subconscious mind. Absolutely. So keeping aware that the words that you tell yourself, I am going to, I am whichever, those are going to be big, big things.
They are huge things. And I think it's been a year I quit drinking alcohol altogether. And not that I was ever a big drinker to begin with.
No, exactly.
but it was a habit. It was something that when I was around certain people, I liked to have a drink. It was something like a social thing.
Social.
And so for me, I had to prepare myself when I was going around, like my one of my good friends got married this year, just going to birthday parties and seeing my good friend at the bar. I had to have a plan ahead of time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing is, to protect your habits. Sometimes you're going to be in certain situations, or certain situations are coming and they're going to tempt you to fall off your habit. You pre-plan for that. Are you there?
Oh, I'm here, but it was stopped there. Sometimes you're going to be in certain situations. I don't know if you said anything.
And you're pre-planning for that. It's kind of coming in and out. I'm like checking my internet provider. Everything's good there. Strong signal. So, are you there? Oh, I see you blinking. So you're there.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. You're too, so I don't see you.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah,
I'm here.
There? Yeah, you're freezing. You're completely frozen. I don't look like I'm frozen. I can move, but I don't. You completely freeze. It's funny.
You're back now.
Yeah, so are you. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we're back on.
I don't know what happened.
Technology, is that Mercury in retrograde already? What's going on?
Yeah. Oh well. Well, there's a lot of energy there today.
There is
a lot of energy in the world today. A lot. Yeah. Yeah. So where were we?
Yeah. So we were talking about building habits and
oh my goodness.
I did want to talk a little bit about the fragmented choices that we can make sometimes, and how the habits can fragment us off of our like internal purpose. Right?
Absolutely.
And so sometimes just doing those habits, like we were talking about, spiritual habits that bring us back into alignment with our purpose, and it brings us more into focus with what we're actually here to do.
Right.
But sometimes there's certain things that you can do in life and you feel good about it, even though maybe it's not the best habit, but it's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people are okay with smoking cigarettes and that's not a bother to them. They're happy. They don't want to change that. That's okay. Yep. But some people, they smoke and they don't like it. It's not something that makes them feel good about themselves. It's not something that makes them feel happy, proud of who they are and their choices. And I call that fragmenting your being. Right. So talking about choices and habits that fragment your being, that means that they're habits that bring your vibration down. Uh-oh, we're frozen again.
Okay, I missed all that. You froze.
I forgot as soon as I thought I was frozen, but habits that bring your vibration down because you're not proud of them. Some people don't, they're not bothered by smoking. It's okay. They feel good about the fact that they're a smoker, but others don't. And it's those fragmented choices. It brings your vibration down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And so just deciding that, it's okay. Like this is the switch in the consciousness is, I am a non-smoker. I am not going to, and be happy when you do smoke. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the more that you're happy, because right now you're feeling a need, and soon you're going to learn what that need was, and you're going to be able to replace it with something that's more in vibration with your being.
Right. Absolutely. And it's funny, Linda, but as you're talking about that, it makes me think about a conversation that I had with a lady who's in one of my circle groups. And she was having a really hard time with having to wear a mask. And it was because it was because it just grated on her. She just didn't want to because she doesn't believe in wearing masks. She doesn't believe, okay, and that's entirely up to her. That's okay.
That's right.
But whenever she would put on that mask, she would get into that rage, right? So, and that was kind of starting to form that habit of that emotional habit with the masks, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about how you have to look at things.
It truly is. And habits are all about, again, those mental and emotional reactions to
absolutely
what we're doing, right?
Absolutely. So, and as soon as the circle group, we got together and we were talking to her about it and you know, about how she could form a different habit around that and feeling okay with wearing the mask, right? When she needed to. I mean, after all, if they're mandatory and you want to go get your groceries and you've got to put on a mask, well, you know, you might have to put on a mask.
And I mean, just saying this is temporary. It's not going to last forever. It's for the greater good, and you know, whatever that greater good is, maybe you can't see the ultimate results, you know, and these are just
absolutely, and these are just little examples.
Exactly. The patter. It's interrupting, because sometimes, you know, in situations like that, we have emotional reactions to things that we have to do. There's nothing, you know, and it's just interrupting that mental chatter. And that is about building new subconscious reactions to situations that are hard, and doing private, your own personalized meditations in this way is very good that way.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we're going to talk at the end about, some of the suggestions of some spiritual habits that we can do for ourselves to put us into that vibration of accepting new habits into our lives, and building those personalized meditations is one of the, I'd have to say it's been the most powerful thing for me to do in my life. And even my doctor,
sorry, go ahead. Even your doctor, go ahead.
No, even my daughter.
Oh, your daughter.
So I do personalized meditation specifically for her. So when she's anxious, that she's like not with me, or she's, you know, even when she's going to bed here, sometimes she's like, Mommy, can I just listen to a meditation? Absolutely. And so I have about 3 or 4 that I've recorded on her phone that she listens to. And they just help her to move into a different space that, you know, she can just have that control.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny because I do the same thing for my grandchildren, right? Coming in, they have the different, they're starting to adapt the spiritual habits of, at least when they're here, maybe not when they're there, but again, that comes to the place of, that comes to the, how can I explain this? So habits don't have to be on a daily basis. It could be at a certain place you do certain things. And in this case, whenever they come to my place, it's a habit that when they go to bed at night, this is what we do, right? Every single night that they sleep here, we do it this way. And so that's become their habit now.
That's right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be an everyday thing. You know, you can choose, there can be an event, there can be a time, or there will be a time, whether it's daily or weekly or monthly or whichever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Some habits are not every single day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's funny how certain people will trigger those habits.
Yes.
You know, and I have friends, like old friends, that will trigger the habit of wanting to smoke. I mean, I haven't smoked in a long time, but when I go with those people, it's like, oh my gosh, I just want to smoke. And I had to really work through some things there, because it was all about connection for me. And those particular people, I always connect with them, you know, by going out and smoking a cigarette. That's how we would have those different types of conversation and that different type of connection with them. And it would just automatically go back to that, oh, I want to go out and have a cigarette with them when they were going. And it was like, come on, you can connect with them. You don't need to, you know, you don't need to have a cigarette, go outside and stand with them. You don't need to smoke. You can still go and have that conversation with them. You don't need to do that.
Yeah. It's just, you got to figure out something else to replace that habit with, right?
Yeah. And well, and sometimes it was just being okay inside myself. It was a confidence thing that I didn't need to smoke to connect to these people. It was like, I was on that trigger loop, right? So I was triggered like, oh, if I want to connect with them while they're smoking, I need to smoke. And I was like, no, I can go outside and stand with them. I don't need to smoke
Without the cigarette.
without the cigarette, you know. And
Exactly.
the craving instantly went away once I was like, no, we can do this. We can go stand outside and we can have the conversation and we can connect and we don't have to have a cigarette.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't miss out on anything.
No. So I mean, realistically, you maintained your habit, but it was done in a different way.
It done in a different way. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I stepped to that, you know, I wasn't going to smoke and I was still going to be able to have the conversations that they were having while they were smoking and whatever they were doing. And it was okay. Yeah. And it was really a security thing. I thought that was so interesting when I stopped smoking, how those little tiny triggers, I had to like look in and like, why do I feel like
Isn't that amazing though, when we really stop and look at something and how we're feeling about it, and we really stop and analyze whether it's something that we see outside bringing something to make us feel something inside, or whatever it is, when we really stop and look and start to ask questions, what we find out, what we learn about ourselves,
Absolutely.
unbelievable.
And it was
Right?
and it was another part of it that was so interesting was it was only those people.
Yeah.
It was only those people. I could be with anybody else and it wouldn't even cross my mind to have a cigarette. I wouldn't even want to go outside and talk to them. It's just those people. Because those people I had that deep connection with, that I grew up, and it was young, and it was, you know, a long period of time that I experienced that with those people, that when I was around them, that's what I wanted to do. It's amazing. That is amazing. Anyway.
It's amazing that our brain can bring us back in time. Right? Like you look at it by even listening to music, right? You can, by listening to a piece of music that you used to listen to when you were 16 years old with your first boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and you sit and listen to that, and that can bring you right back to how you felt at that time.
Oh yeah, right to like the memories of what was happening in the world, what was happening in your relationships, what was like all the emotions, and oh my gosh, music is amazing for that.
Right? It's just it's amazing. And when you stop, like, you know, before I got into the spirituality and doing all the inner work that I've been doing, right? You'd go to that part to where you'd hear a piece of music and it'd bring you back, and you go, oh yeah, like, you know, that's what it is. But now when it happens, you go, oh wow, like what is going on? What is the connection? How is that all happening? Right?
Yeah, amazing.
It's so amazing. It's just, and it just goes back to our bodies, our human bodies, our brains being so complex.
Well, and it also is like, we have a little recording machine in here that's recording everything that's happening, everything that's going on is all up there. And that's why hypnosis is so powerful, especially when you're trying to adopt new habits or heal deep traumas, because you're literally going into that recorder and you're seeing exactly what's going on. Because what happens too is what's happening around you it's like creating these experiences and feelings. And then as you go on, you're remembering the feelings. You're not remembering exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like the emotions are and the thoughts that you had become the imprint, but it's not exactly what happens. Yeah. And when you go into hypnosis, you see exactly what happened.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And you can do that. You can see that by, like, say something happened, I don't know, 10 years ago, and we were in the same place at the same time, and we lived that experience together. Well, your memory of it might not be the same recollection as mine.
Absolutely.
Right? It's just, it's so fascinating. It's just so fascinating. But If we both went into hypnosis and we got the recording of what had happened, then we're going to have pretty close to the same thing, if not exactly the same thing, because we were both there, unless we saw it at different angles or came in from different emotions, right?
Well,
then it would still be our part of it.
Yeah, exactly. The emotions are like, the emotion is what triggers the memory. But if we were to go in and see, you might have seen different aspects of what's happening than what I seen.
Which is what caused the emotion that I had and the emotion that you had.
Exactly. Yeah, because your peripherals might pick up different things, or, different.
Exactly.
Anyways, the human mind is so incredible that way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, our whole mind, our body, everything is so complex, and like, we'll never know. Well, I shouldn't say we'll never know, but we probably will never know everything there is to know.
Not in our lifetime, anyway.
Not in our lifetime. No.
I mean, really, at this point, we're still only operating at 1% of what our brain is actually capable of in our body, right? So, I mean, we can only operate.
We're still infants. We're still infants when it comes to knowing what our capabilities are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We try, but.
Yep. And so there was one other part that I want to talk about habits, is the habits that we carry out will attract to us the validation on the outside world, right? So what we are doing every day attracts people, it attracts events, it attracts, so a lot of the law of attraction works with how we are thinking, feeling, and acting in the world. And so the outside world is matching those habits, right? And
absolutely.
And to build confidence in the little habit building, remember how we talked about building little tiny things and reaching those goals, those little tiny milestones as we go. It builds confidence. So it's that loop, that confident loop, that habit loop that we're talking about earlier on. And we want to be getting experiences like that right away. Because the more that we can have our brain have those loops of good experiences, the better it wants to continue doing it. And then the outside world starts to match what we are doing. Right?
Manifesting.
Exactly. Manifesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we should get into some suggestions for some good spiritual habits, because we're up to 10 minutes left here.
Amazing.
So you've already talked about one, Linda. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, time flies.
So we've already talked about meditation.
We did talk about meditation a little bit.
Yeah. A really good spiritual habit to get into. Another one is, and we've already done an episode on that, is frequencies, listening to binaural beats while you sleep. And you'll get some really good on YouTube. Or even if you get some CDs, I know Danny Thibodeau, he has some really amazing CDs, and they're not expensive. They're $15 each. Actually, I didn't plan on doing a shout out today. I hadn't thought about it, but now I'm thinking about Danny, so we'll do that shout out for Danny. He's a musician who taught music in school, and he's fantastic. I don't know if you've ever heard him, Linda, or not, but I have a lot of his his CDs, and they're just amazing. I use them when I'm meditating actually a lot. And those are that's the music, that's the binaural, or the beats, that the frequencies that I put on when the children come over to sleep over. And that's the first thing they ask for now. So listening to that type of music, those binaural beats, or the binaural beats, I should say, while you're sleeping at night, that's going to help raise your frequency as well. That's going to help raise your vibration. What else would be good habits to get into for spirituality? Smudging. Smudging is another really good habit. It just, for me, smudging it just lightens everything.
It really does.
Right? Lightens everything. It's just amazing. And it's funny, my granddaughter was here yesterday, my little 2-year-old granddaughter, And the first thing she did when she came in, because I babysat her yesterday, the first thing she did was take me by the hand and took me in my healing room. And she wanted to play my drums. And then she wanted me to light the smudge.
Wow.
She's 2, right? So you talk, it's so funny, but she loves this, to see the smoke. Now I don't do a lot of it with her there, right? Just I actually did a little bit of cedar wood with her there, but it was so, so cute, right? You talk about building habits, but anyway, so that's another one. Of course, drinking lots of water, that's a good habit. Herbal teas is another thing for really good spiritual habits to get into, whether you're drinking, how many times a day or whatever. Yeah, I'm just going on, Linda, sorry.
No, gosh, it's great. Water, or not water, sorry, whole foods, sorry, alive foods. The more alive foods you eat, the more alive you feel inside.
Absolutely. Yep. Let me see, what else do I have? Oh, and the I am. The I am statements
are huge.
Very good habits to get into, as well as any kind of positive affirmations, right? So, if you're having a hard time dealing with something, when you and the other thing is gratefulness, expressing gratefulness. That's such a great habit to get into, right? So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, as part of my habitual routines, is do my positive affirmations and do my gratefulness before I even get out of bed, right? So I do my meditation, my affirmations, and I mean, it doesn't have to take 2 hours. You can take 5-10 minutes before you even put your feet to the floor in the morning.
Yep.
And it's amazing how that will start off your day and start creating good habits and better energy, higher vibration. And you'll see, like you say, the things that start to come around in your world, right? In your life. Yeah.
And they match that feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We live in a feeling universe. So there's also an app that I found the other day. It's called it's called Grow. And it's a habit building app that you can put on your phone. I was doing this, and it just came into my head, like, you need to look this up right now. So I did, and I think it's great. It's amazing. It's written by a psychologist, and you do every day, you clock if you've done the habit, and it comes up as a reminder on your phone. And every day it'll clock if you've done the habit, and then it asks a series of questions. If you did the habit, were you happy doing the habit? Did you feel fulfilled? Anyways, it does like a bunch of different questions to see if you're sticking to it and if you're going to reach your goal, and keeps you on track. So I thought that was really cool. I also loved really listening to Jim Rohn. He was an awesome, he is no longer alive. He's passed away now, but there's tons of his live speaking engagements that he did on YouTube. And I really dove deep into his knowledge on habit building. And I really thought that he was amazing in that way. And also, and all I can think about is Chicken Soup from the Soul. And who wrote that book? I freaking know this.
Well, there's so many of them now.
There's so many. Absolutely.
Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, for the, I don't remember, Linda. I don't remember. That's been out for so long now, right? Like, I don't know how many of them I've read.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Him too. He's got a lot of books on building good, healthy habits, and he does a challenge too, a success challenge on building good habits. Made a huge difference in my habit building habits. But there's lots of resources, and just go with whatever you're attracted to and learning from, and who you're attracted to learning from, because there's tons out there of really good people. For me, at this point, I activate my chakra system every day. I am also in the habit of, before going to bed, I put my mirrors up, so I'm no longer accepting any energy from others, and I'm no longer giving any out, so that while I'm sleeping in my own energy.
Awesome. Yeah.
Analyzing my dreams is another big habit of mine, because I feel like that is a huge one on the path of self-development,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
understanding what's happening inside of yourself.
Another one is just commitment. It's just commitment to living a joyful life.
Absolutely.
Living a life full of love and joy and happiness, you know, and that is a commitment, but it's a habit. Like, you have to commit to making that your habit on a daily basis.
That's right. So important.
Not always easy. The other thing that's really good for habits for spirituality is, you know, and I mean, I'm throwing out these out here. Just take what resonates with you, and if it doesn't, then just leave it, right? But moon celebrations are always are so. I mean, they're inspiring for me. They're so inspiring, right? And I don't necessarily do moon celebrations every full moon or every new moon or whatever. But setting the intention, and it just does something inside.
Yes. And also, when it comes to the moon, you don't have to make it a big event. It can be a 5-minute,
No,
like, thank you, moon, for all of
absolutely.
your insights, for all of your light in the dark. That alone, just allowing yourself to connect to the energy of the moon, is such a powerful thing. And it's not something that has to be a big thing. You know, I have a picture that I keep in my room. I painted it about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's got the sun with all the cycles of the moon going around it, and each one has a habit that I do around each. And I just think that that alone has been a powerful thing for me, that I just acknowledge, like, okay, now we're going into this. I have like one section of the moon, it's about organization and imagination and, you know, focus and following your gut. And it's just those little reminders of, like, these are things that, you know, things, and keeping things in your environment that remind you that you have these goals, that you have these habits that you're trying to, it's so powerful, because they, you know, the repeated seeing it every day allows you to bring it in more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, you can do that with writing it all down is great. You can do vision boards that you have put in your bathroom or in your dressing room, on the mirror, whatever. Write yourself little notes on the mirror, anything that's going to be repetition.